So welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar about creating pixel perfect invoices in Power BI. I don't have a lot of slides, but a few slides just to structure today's webinar. And I'm going to click through, tell you a little bit about BI Samurai, who we are, what we do, then a few words about why what I'm going to show you is actually important and how and why you can and should use it. Then we're going to spend quite some time on the demo. So what I want to do is I want to recreate, and I'm going to quickly show you what I will try to recreate. I will try to recreate a pixel perfect invoice, like the one that is hopefully showing up soon in Power BI. So you see pixel perfect, meaning this is really a product that in the end I could send out to a client. And we still have the Power BI functionality, so I can slice and dice and use my filters in here. And for this customer, I don't have an invoice for a specific month, but this is the main thing what I want to recreate today. And then once we have the invoice, also probably there's a next step. We probably want to send the invoices to our clients. So I'm also going to show you one way how to create PDFs from all the invoices using Power Automate. And then we're going to do the same thing again, but a little bit with a different functionality or with a different visual. In the second part, we're going to use our certified custom visual. And this part will only be quite short. We're going to spend most of the time on step 1 and 2. And then we also want to have some time for questions and answers, but please feel free to just unmute or post your questions in the chat at any time. We might take the questions straight away, or sometimes we might also hold on and take some of the questions in the end. Okay, a little bit about BI Samurai. We were founded in 2016. We actually just changed the name to BI Samurai. We were previously called K-Team Solutions, a company based in Switzerland. We're currently a team of 14 BI Samurais. We're mainly implementing everything that is sort of related to Power BI. We're also doing a lot with Power BI Embedded. And we have just recently launched embedc.io, which is basically the platform or the website where we have all things Power BI embedded. But we also use the other products from the Power Platform. As you will see today, we're also going to use Power Automate, but of course also Power Apps and a lot of the other Microsoft tools. And we develop custom visuals. So we currently have 3 custom visuals in the Microsoft App Source, and we're going to be using 2 of those today. And there is actually some brand new visuals in development, nearly done. So very soon we're gonna have a few more visuals in App Source as well. Okay, that's basically about us. Why is what I'm going to show you in the next couple of minutes actually important? Normally, Power BI is used as a data visualization and analysis tool, but actually Power BI can be much more. So you can also use Power BI to optimize processes and then, of course, save money and time. That's what we're going to do today. Because the data you're using, for example, like for creating invoices, is most likely already available in your ERP or already in a Power BI data set. If it's not, it could be also enhanced, of course, using Power Apps, for example. But you might only use this data to just create management reports. But why not use the same data to actually process it, to really take one of your internal processes and let Power BI do a part of your work? Again, it reduces time, money, and of course, it also reduces errors. If you let a machine do the job, there is most likely less errors than if a human being needs to do it. I also added replace paginated reports. Maybe some of you are aware that just maybe last week, Microsoft announced that paginated reports will now also work with the Power BI Pro license. Before it was premium. And of course, what we're going to do today could also be done with paginated reports. But I doubt that anybody could do what I'm going to do and show you what I'm going to show within just 30 to 40 minutes using the report builder and paginated reports. So what I'm going to show you is just very different, but also from my point of view, a much easier way of doing that kind of report. And of course, what I'm going to show you in this webinar, the invoice, is just one topic that we picked. So, but it's not only about invoices. This could be done for any kind of document, and it doesn't need to be printed to PDF. It could be anything. So basically, it should be an eye-opener, it should be inspiring, it should give you ideas, and if you ever, after the webinar, try to do something similar and you struggle, this is where you can reach our support team at support@visamurai.com. So we're always happy to help, just reach out. Cool, now we're getting to the main part. So I'm going to spend some time creating the actual invoice. So we're going to start from zero. And once we have it ready, we're going to publish it to the Power BI service. And then we're going to use Power Automate. Actually, we're going to use Power Automate Desktop to loop through all the individual clients that need to get an invoice. And we're going to print one PDF file per client. And so far, I'm going to be using our non-certified custom visual, but I know that most or a lot of organizations are restricted to only use certified visuals. So in the end, and I hope we'll still have time, I'm going to also show you how you could do it with certified visual in case your company says, hang on, we're not allowed to use non-certified visuals. And then again, Q&A, but if there's anything in the meantime, just interrupt me and I'll try to answer questions. Okay. So what we can see now is basically a brand new report. The only thing I did so far is I imported some data because this is simply not the topic of today's presentation. We have a clients table, that's our dimensions where we have name and city address of our clients. We have our invoice table. I'm going to show you a little bit in detail what we have in there. And then as in every good data model, we have a calendar table. Let's have a quick look at the invoices table. That's basically a facts table. Let me just change the format of that. So we have a client ID, which is also used in our data model to connect the facts to the dimension. We have a date, we have an invoice number, and then we have line items and topics. So every invoice could have multiple line items. If we just filter down to this client and this invoice, you can see that in November 2022, they would have 3 line items on their invoice. That's the number of hours we worked for them. That's the rate we charge. And then if they're lucky enough, they even get a discount. So that's what we want to show on our invoice in the final product. But yeah, so far I don't even have an invoice in here and I need to design it. And the tool I'm going to use is the one we all know, Microsoft Excel. And also here, I don't really have an invoice ready, so I'm just going to use one of the templates. So of course, it doesn't need to be a template. You know, you can use your own invoice template, the one you designed. But for me, just to make it simpler and quicker, I'm just going to use this template as a basis. Then I'm going to move things around a little bit. You should still be able to see. Very good. So this is the invoice we will do. But before I copy it to Power BI, I want to make sure that I'm really happy with the format. So let's see, we have our company name. We will add BI Samurai up there. A company slogan, we don't have a slogan. Let's say we remove that. We have a street, we have a city, we have a phone number. Every invoice will have a date, an invoice number, a topic, and then will be our client's details. And then basically down here, we're going to have the line items as previously mentioned. Currently, this is empty, but it's always a good idea to actually add something in here. So just add support, just so we see what this will look like. And maybe I'm not entirely happy with this because maybe I would like to add some padding in between the line and the text. So everything that I want to have from a format point of view, it's better or easier if we do it in Excel upfront. So just right click, format the cell, and in the alignment, I just add, I indent this a little bit, just to make it a gap in between. My numbers, maybe also I want to change the formatting a bit. I'm not going to spend too much time here, but still, let's say for our numbers, maybe we want to also indent. And I'm also not sure if I really want to have the dollar symbol. Leave it if you like. For me, this looks a bit nicer. Let's say we are happy with the look and feel. So once we have transferred or copied, and you'll see how I do this to Power BI, we will of course need to manually link every cell that should be dynamic to our data model. And in order to find each cell again, it's good to just add something into it. And you see, I just type in a lot of underscores, description 1, and you will see later on why I do that. Because if I do all the underscores, this will sort of stand out in the code that we will see later, and it will be much easier to find it again. And we'll do the same here. We say this is hours 1. Pull this down. This is rate 1. Pull this down. This is amount 1, and pull it down. So now I can easily identify all of these cells. I could do the same here. I could say this is subtotal, this is tax rate, and this is sales tax. Other, it's not a must to do that, but it will make everything much easier in the end. Okay, I think we could. This is our design. What I want to do next is I want to highlight all the cells which are actually part of my invoice. Then I go to File, Save As, and then I just navigate like I would normally do to wherever I want to save this file. And then, and that's very important, we don't actually save the file as an Excel file, but we save it as a website. So we save it as web page HTML document. And also, and let me try to zoom in here a little bit, right? So we save it as web page, and we only save the selected cells. And once I did this, and then I navigate to the folder where I just saved it, it should be, where did I put it in here. That's the file I just saved. When I open it, it opens up in the browser because I saved it as a web page. If I now right click on it and select View Page Source, that will give me quite a lot of code. And the good news is that there's no need to understand this code. It's a lot of code, and It helps if you know a little bit about HTML, but you will see in the next couple of minutes that I will not really modify that in a technical kind of way. You'll see. So I will copy this entire code. And now I'm actually going to Power BI and I would create a new table. It's also not a must. It's just for me to have a nicely organized data model. I like to have measured tables. And then in my new table, I'm going to create a new measure and I call it invoice. And then I just paste the whole code I previously copied. What we need to do now is we need to replace all the double quotes with single quotes. And the easiest way to do that, and I zoom in here a little bit, is to just highlight one of the double quotes and then you press Ctrl-Shift-L and that highlights every single double quote in my code. I mean, of course, that can also be used for different cases. It's actually quite a handy shortcut. And now I just type in a single quote and it's done. Everything is replaced. I just need to nest the entire code into double quotes. And now my main invoice is ready to be used. We're going to use one of our custom visuals to do that. And how you get custom visuals, you just go to, well, these three dots and then get visuals. And we're going to use the HTML and CSS viewer. Before I import it, I want to mention a couple of important things. First of all, you notice that we still have it published as K-Team Solutions. And as mentioned, we just rebranded and renamed the company. So very soon, this will also be under the name of BI Samurai. And we have also renamed the name of the visual. It is in AppSource, it's still called HTML CSS Viewer, but actually we also realized that there's much more that can be done with the visual. So the new name is actually HTML VizCreator Flex, because you really create your own visual. And it is a paid custom visual. That's also important to know. There is a certain free functionality, which is limited. We're also working on a new update where we will restructure the licensing. So the new licensing will be that as soon as you use the visual in Power BI Desktop, there's 0 limitations. With this version, we still have limitations. So when I add it, you will also see that when I add it to the report, I already had it imported. That's why we get this message. When I add it here, and then I add our newly created invoice measure to the HTML placeholder, I get a message saying that without a valid license key, I can't use the full functionality. But somewhere in here, I should actually have a license key. And when I copy it and paste it in here, we can finally see that now this visual shows exactly the invoice I've previously created. We already noticed the first issue that we have a scroll bar in here, which will not work nicely once we print this to PDF. So the solution is quite simple. We just increase the entire page size to, I don't know, 1000 pixel maybe. Let's see. Still a scroll bar. So let's say 1200 pixel, which means now my invoice actually fits on the canvas and I can start making it dynamic. So how do I make it dynamic? Let's start with something rather simple. Let's start with replacing the your company name with whatever I want to have in there. So I want this to say BI Samurai. BI Samurai is something that is not part of my data. because it's not the client, it's actually us. So I don't need any complex stacks. The only thing I do is I create a variable and I call it our company name. And it's just BI summary. Of course, so far that will not change my visual because I now need to put this variable into the code. And I, of course, need to find exactly the place in the code where it says your company name. Let's try to find this. Because it's on the top of the invoice, it will also be on the upper part in the code. So let's look at the code. There's also one thing I want to mention, that a lot of this is not necessarily needed. Excel just saves it in that way. A lot of this we could replace or remove, but also it doesn't really bother us. So I would just leave the code as it is and only replace what we have to replace. The top part of the code we ignore because it's only formatting stuff. We don't really care about this right now. We did all the formatting in Excel already. So I scroll down until I see something like this, start of output from Excel, and then we have the table statement, and that's really where the definition of the content of the table starts. So somewhere in here, quite on the top, we should have your company name, which is what we want to replace. So I just add 2 double quotes and 2 ampersand because I'm switching between HTML and DAX. And here I add the variable we created. And when I confirm with enter and close the formula bar, hopefully this now says BI summary. But of course, we also want to replace the name of the client. But in order to do that, I first need to select the client. So let me add a slicer and let's get the client name and turn this into a drop down. Also change the drop down to single select because it doesn't make sense to have an invoice for several clients. We also need to filter on the month because we normally invoice once a month. So we want to get for this client and for, I don't know, January 2022, the invoice. So basically what we want is this name here should be here. So again, we need to find the word name in our code and replace it with what's coming from this slicer. This time, this data is coming from the data model, so we actually need to retrieve it first. And we could retrieve it by simply saying another variable, client name is selected value, client name. And now this variable we need to replace, so we need to put into the table. We just need to see where it actually is. And if you did this for a couple of times, it will be much easier to find these elements. In the beginning, especially if you have a long table, it might take a while. So I guess this is it. But why did I find it that quickly? Well, right now I was lucky, but I'm just gonna still tell you a little trick how it can be done. Because basically we can count the rows. So this is probably row 1. We might have a row in between, a blank one. This is row 3, 4, 5, maybe a blank one, 6, 7. Probably in the 8th row, we have the name. So if we go back in here, and I accidentally didn't save my variable var client name is selected value client name. I just need to find the specific row. What did I say? The 8th one. And every TR stands for a row. So this is the first row, second row, third row, 4, 5, 6, 7. So probably somewhere in this region we have it. It's actually not the company name, because probably one of the empty rows I counted didn't actually exist. So I think this is where we want to place our variable, our client name. Good. Go back to the invoice, and we can see that now this matches. When I change the client name, I also get a different name here. It will be exactly the same for all the other fields in here. I still want to do a few more. I want to do at least one of the rows line items, because there, of course, we need to do a little bit more DAX, because we also need to add some filter criterias to only show line item 1 here and line item 2 here and line item 3 here. So let's try. Let's say we want to have the bar description 1, which is calculate, because we want to add a filter, selected value. It is something with description. Well, yeah, only description. And only if the line item is 1. So bar description, we can copy it. And now we will be quite happy to see all these underscores that we added, because now all the elements using underscores will be easier to find. You see in our code, we have underscores, underscores, underscores. So now it's super easy to find them. We just input our measure or our variable in here. This is description. Let's see. We did Tableau mentoring finance for this client in January 2022. Let's also do hours, rate, and amount. And from then on, it's very repetitive. So we're not going to finish the whole thing, because really it will be much easier. Hour for line item 1 is calculate. We can take the sum of the hours. And again, we filter on line item is 1. The var for rate 1 is, well, same thing. The only difference is that we're using the rate. And then we have the var total 1, which is calculate, and that's basically a sum x of the invoice table, where we say hours times rate. And of course the filter invoice line equals to 1. Good. We can go down again and change again. Super easy to find now. Var hour 1, var, oops, we need to have the double quotes and the ampersand. Var, that was the rate, I think. And here we have the total 1. Var total 1. Let's see what it looks like. So 2 hours times 200 equals 400. Of course, now I could also add some formatting to the values. But this is basic. Now we're talking about DAX, right? And we don't want to talk too much about how to do things in DAX, but still, maybe let's just add the format to it. And then I guess we are nearly done, because everything else will be very much the same. Let's see what it looks like. Better, let's say I'm happy with the formatting, because from now on, once I'm happy, I can really copy entire blocks and just change individual parts of the formula. So this is now for line item 2, 2, 2. And of course, also down here, this is now description 2, value 2, hour 2, and so on. So description 2, hour 2. Rate 2, and we'll just do this one. Then we're good for our photo 2. Okay, so now we have our 2 line items, and of course they are linked to our data model. This client didn't have any invoice from us for this month. If I change it to a different month, we'll see it looks like we didn't do much for those. I mean, this is all fake data, so I have no idea for when we actually, well, it looks like we don't, oh, okay. In September 2022, we also did something for this client. The rest of this would really be repetitive. We would copy, paste for the descriptions, and for the totals, we would just create different measures. But the doing itself, the clicks, will be the same from now on. But let's say I'm happy with the invoice and I want to publish it. So of course I'm going to publish it. I need to save it first. Let's save it. Where are we? Save it, publish it to the service. Get it into our test workspace. And then you're also going to see the limitation of using a non-certified visual. Because I'm now using a non-certified visual. Again, I'll show you how to do the same thing with a certified later on. If I now want to create a PDF from this visual will simply not be displayed on the PDF. So I cannot use, there's like basically 3 functionalities I cannot use with non-certified visuals. It's the export to PowerPoint and PDF. And also if I add an email subscription, the visual, and I say show me an image of the preview image, the visual will not be shown. So in my PDF, yeah, I can't use it. But yeah, you know how it is. We always want to get around paying a lot of licenses. So, which means that the regular Power Automate web cannot be used to export or create the PDFs. Even if we could do it, if we used the certified, we couldn't use Power Automate online. So what we did is we actually created a Power Automate desktop flow. And what it will do is basically loop through every client or every client and month of my data model, and then save a PDF for each invoice that later on I probably want to send via email. This could of course also be done with Power Automate online later on, but because we're not using the export functionality, we are using the print functionality. Where is it? Somewhere. I'm going to show you later on. We're going to print this. I'm not sure where it is. Well, you'll see in a minute. We're going to actually print the PDFs. We're going to use Power Automate Desktop. Okay. Before I'm going to dive into this, Well, are there any questions so far? Maybe that's also something I can ask. Because we're going to change the topic a little bit now. We're going to go into the optimization part of it. If not, that's also fine. To basically tell Power Automate Desktop what it needs to do, we have created sort of a Excel file where we could input all the parameters, and then Power Automate is looping through each of those rows and then printing, generating the PDF as we want. I don't know if you're aware of this, and let me zoom in quite a lot more. Hopefully you can see this. What we can do when we use URLs to open up Power BI reports, we can actually add filter criterions into the URL. So I can say filter, and then here we have, this is the table name from the data model you saw before. This is the column name, and then this is where we input the element we want to filter. And then I open up this URL, my report will already be filtered to the specific client. So the report we want to loop through is this one. So I'm going to take this and let me just see, replace this part of the formula. Hopefully this will work. I haven't really tested this in a while, but let's see. Client name. The table is actually called client 1, so we should probably change this to client 1. The column is called client name, so that looks good. And the elements are still the ones from here. Looks good. I save this. I will close it. And then one important thing to know is whenever we use query or filter parameters, and this time we're going to filter on the client, we cannot also have a slicer on the same page, because if the slicer is set to one client and our filter parameter will be a different client, it will simply not show the right result. So I'm just going to delete this slicer and publish the report again, and then we'll give it a go. Before I hit run, I want to quickly, I want to explain the main steps of what we're doing in Power Automate Desktop. We have a couple of display messages which will guide the user and help them and show them why things are automatically happening on the screen. So it's just for user guidance. We will then add or open a browser window and log into powerbi.com. And sorry, I need to do that. We will then, as soon as the web page is open, we're going to send keystrokes. We're going to send Control P, which is print, because we want the user to manually select the print settings they want. So again, the user will get a message telling them what they should do, then another message saying, hang on, something will happen very, very soon. You will be asked to select an Excel file, and that's the Excel file I just showed you. The Excel file is the one that needs to be prepared before, because that's what is used in the flow to print the correct invoices. So we're going to launch Excel. We're going to minimize Excel. So we don't want the user to interact with anything while Power Automate Desktop is doing its job. And then we're just going to read certain elements from the Excel file. So for example, we're going to read in column 1, row 1, where the final invoices should be saved. Reading certain elements from the Excel file. So for example, we read where we want to save the PDF files. We're also going to read how many times I need to loop. So we have 3 print sections, so we're going to loop through the whole thing 3 times. And of course, this logic could be enhanced with anything. When we implemented this in a real life scenario, this was way more complex. I tried to get rid of all the complexity and have a simple example for demo purpose. But that's basically what's happened. This Excel file is opened, some cells are collected, the content of cells is collected, Power Automate Desktop is looping through, is reading the URL, is reading the file name of the PDF I want to have, and then it actually starts with opening up the browser. So every URL will be opened. Then we added a little bit of waiting time because sometimes your browser, and it depends on how complex the report is, Power BI might take a few seconds to load. And then we basically send Control P again to print and return to say like enter. And then we also gonna send another combination of keys, which is the folder name and the file name. So it automatically saves into the correct location with the correct file name. And then because this is in a loop, it's starting from the beginning until we have reached the number of loops we want to do. In the end, we're going to close the browser, close Excel, and oh, actually, this is, for our case, we don't even need this, but it's still in from the other case. We actually merged all the PDFs in one. For our case, this is not needed. I probably just, well, I just forgot to take it off the demo. But let's see. Let me just run the flow. And now hopefully everything will start happening on this screen. I get a message telling me that now a browser will open. Very good. powerbi.com. I get a message saying, please select your print settings. I want to print to PDF because it's a portrait mode invoice. I select portrait. I can also select colors and all my settings that I want. Once I'm done, I select OK. I get prompted to open up the master Excel file. I open up the master Excel file. And I should not click or do anything while Power Automate is doing something in the background, because I might mess up some keystrokes and things. So it's just best to relax and sit back. So right now, this invoice is for Irvin Fleming. And it's printed to PDF soon. This is the file name. That should be the end of a loop. Now we get the second invoice. It's, I don't know if you can see, but it's a different client. This is printed to PDF. And then we have the third one. Should also be, again, a different one. I can also stop the flow. I think we saw that. This is technically how something like this could be done. Well, let it print also this last PDF, and then we're gonna stop the flow because actually I don't need to merge the 3 PDFs into one. And if I go here, I now actually canceled it before the third one was saved, I think. Yeah, so this is why we only have those 2. But now I have opening over here. Not yet pixel perfect, because we would need to get rid of the slicer. We would need to get rid of, change the formatting a little bit, the page size and so on. But technically, if done properly, and spend just a little bit of more time, we would now have a pixel perfect invoice that we could also automatically, with Power Automate, send out to clients or do whatever we want to do with it. But yes.
Pascal, maybe I missed it, but what triggers the Power Automate flow? So what really triggers sending the invoice?
So it's a manual flow. It's me.
It's manual.
It's
okay.
yeah.
So whenever they are ready to send, then they need to be triggered.
So this is really me. But of course it could be. Yes, right now it's me clicking run. All right, good. So we have the PDFs, but again, maybe you say that's a bit, we don't want to do it with the Power Automate desktop because we are actually using Power BI Premium, which means we could use Power Automate online. We don't need to get around the additional licensing, so we are happy with doing it I don't want to say the proper way, but like the Power Automate online way. That of course means you need to use the certified visual. And yeah, we still have a little bit, I think we're good in time. So what I want to do is I want to show you how we would do this with the certified visual. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm going back to my invoice. Well, first I'm actually going to bisamurai.com. Because our HTML VizCreator visuals might be intimidating, and you might think, I don't know any HTML and I don't want to dig into that, we have created a couple of tools that will help you getting started with them. And one of them, by far the most popular one, is the HTML editor, because this just lets you create elements using a rich text editor, like with settings from Word and Excel. So also here we could just say we add a table, we add content. This is my invoice. This is, I don't know, bold and 18 and so on. And at the same time, the tool generates my code for me. And in the end, all I need to do is give this a measure name and copy the code and paste it into Power BI. But I can also take, again, the entire invoice from here, go back to the HTML editor, delete everything I just put in there, and paste it in. And let's see, this is my table 2. Copy the code. By the way, when you use the HTML editor, the editor takes care of replacing the double quotes with the single quotes. So when I paste this in here, I just paste it and that's it. So that will already work. Why I didn't use this in the first place, and let me just go to a new page and copy the page. So this time I add the HTML text styler. So this is our certified visual. I add the table 2. Again, because I'm using quite a big data set or like a lot of code, I need to add a license to it. Let's get rid of the tooltip. So you can see that it also, technically, it also works in here. But you might also notice that certain elements are not exactly formatted the way we want. So for example, invoice was different, bill 2 was bold. The padding I added here and here is gone. My amounts are not right aligned anymore. So when I use that way, I need to know a little bit of HTML. So it's still possible, and it's still not a lot I need to know. Let me just do a few small things, because I think bill 2 was bold. And I can use the B tag in HTML to make something bold. So the build tool should already be bold. We can also add some padding again to leave a little bit of a gap in between the description and the outer line. So we just need to find it, of course. We have description 1. This is the definition. And just somewhere in here, I say padding right is, I don't know, 15 pixel. So hopefully, oh, not padding right, sorry, padding left, huh? We want to move it in from the left, not right. Where was I? Description 1, padding left. So you see that this now moved in a little bit. So it's still possible. And of course, the main difference is, and I'm not going to try to really make this look perfect. The main difference is that now, because it's a certified visual means Microsoft has looked at the code, Microsoft confirms it's safe to use. This is for a lot of companies prerequisite before they use custom visuals. Now I can also use the regular export to PDF functionality. And this page will show, the first page will of course still not show. Let's see how long it takes to generate the PDF. But yes, that's the main difference. Non-certified, simple copy and paste from Excel. The certified, a little bit more work with the design elements. So in this PDF, the first page, we have this message. Second page, again, we would need to play with the settings a little bit, but it shows perfectly fine. And we're using standard functionality. So for premium users, there's no need to do the workaround with the Power Automate desktop. It works fine, but of course, using Power Automate online, if you have the chance, would of course be the easier solution to do it. And I think when I look back at what I plan to do, we have also created the invoice with the certified visual. So I'm at the end of what I've planned. So let's see if there's anything that somebody wants to know. Did we get any reactions, any questions? If not, well, then I hope that means that everything was clear. If not, you know, we're always happy to.
You can also get in touch with us after the webinar in case you have some questions later on.
Exactly. So I'm aware that maybe this might be intimidating, but reach out to us via email, and also I'll take those few minutes and show a few things that we have on the website, because doing things with these visuals is you can do mostly anything. So if we just look at the non-certified visual again, and just maybe have a click through the sample report, just to show you another few examples of things we can do. It's not only tables, because the invoice technically is a table, right? We can also do all kinds of graphics and illustrations, and of course now this, whenever you try to show it, it takes longer to load, but let's see.
And Pascal, is there a free trial for this visual? Because maybe that could be something that can be helpful here for the group.
So absolutely. So currently right now there is a 30 days free trial where you can use the full functionality of the visual without any restrictions. And also for And after that, I said in the future we'll change the licensing rules, so you will be able to use it for free, the full functionality in Power BI Desktop. And also for freelancers, Power BI experts, you know, if you want to just play around with it and you have your own, you want to maybe show something to if your clients, you know, reach out to us. Reach out to us if you need to have an extended trial. We're always happy to give out special licenses for Power BI experts that also want to create ideas with our visuals, because it's also for us interesting to see what other people are using it for. So hopefully now my demo report works. You can see here, this is something completely different. So now here we really have animations or illustrations, images, whatever you want to call it, which are still done with the same visual. Also this map, for example, we can really create mostly anything. What else can I show? Floor map. I find that an interesting one because it can also work with custom tooltips. You could also use it to embed videos into reports. There's lots of different showcases. I would really suggest clicking through the website, looking at the report. All our reports can be downloaded, of course, because I don't want you to try to create elements from scratch. It's always a good idea to download the sample report and change bits and pieces of the code which is already there. And again, if something doesn't work, reach out to us. Well, visit our support page where you can find links to the shop, the FAQ, the knowledge base where we explain the specific scenarios. You can schedule demo sessions where we show you the visual in action, or you can ask questions. It's one-on-one private demos, or changelog to see what improved in the past and what features will come in the future. Get the free trial, questions about licensing, and if you already have an account and want to see your invoice or forgot your license key, that's also what you can get from the support center. Very good. So thanks everyone. It's 5 o'clock over here. We are perfect in time. Thanks for joining. I hope that was interesting and helpful. And again, if you would like to work with our visuals or have any other topic that you want to discuss about Power BI or the Power Platform, reach out to us via bisamurai.com. Thank you very much.